Welcome to episode 3 in the floating shelf challenge, in which I start to make the shelf look a little more like a layout. At the end of the previous video, the track was laid, wired up and everything tested to ensure it all worked. First off this time, therefore, was to paint the track. The parts of the point blades which convey current were masked off, and the rest of the track airbrushed with rail match sleeper grime. The tops of the rails were wiped clean and the tape removed from the point blades, which were then carefully brush painted with sleeper grime. No pictures of this exciting stage, unfortunately. Next, the dreaded ballasting. Long-time viewers of my channel may remember the pickle I got into last time when ballasting my garage layout. Soaking wet baseboards, which took an inordinately long time to dry, followed by mould growing on the newly laid ballast, were just two of the problems which I vowed to avoid this time. Another was that it is not a good idea to ballast track in a cold garage in the middle of winter. So this time I ballasted track in a cold garage in the middle of winter. Some people never learn, or do they? The problem last time was too much water getting onto the baseboard. I use a small plant spray to add water containing a drop of washing up liquid to the dry ballast, and it's impossible to restrict the coverage to just the track area. So to avoid everything getting soaked this time, I masked off the whole shelf, well, apart from the track that is, with ordinary masking tape. Once again the point blades were well protected by covering them with tape. The dry ballast was gently coaxed into place and then misted with the plant spray. Diluted PVA was then applied and left to dry. Later, the areas around the point blades were carefully ballasted by hand, making sure that the blades still worked freely. The whole lot was then left to dry out. This may seem like overkill, and on a larger layout might not be possible, but I felt it might be worth it. A couple of days later the masking tape was removed and the whole board was lovely and dry. The masking off operation had been worth it and had kept the board dry, but in addition had given a straight line along the edge of the ballast. I think the end result looks great. By now I had a rough idea how I wanted the layout to look, and thought, as well as freight, I might like to run very short passenger trains as well. A platform was constructed using Pico Southern Region concrete platform sides, together with a plasticard top. Holes were drilled at the rear of the platform top for fencing. The large oblong shape in the middle of the platform was an abortive attempt at installing battery-powered platform lighting. Having cut the hole, I discovered too late that the battery would not fit under the platform, so the hole was filled in. This shouldn't show once an appropriate surface is added to the platform top, but 2 steps forward, 1 step back, eh? The large plastic squares at the left-hand end of the platform are to help position the small waiting shelter which will be placed here later. The platform was then placed loosely into position on the layout to see how it looked. I wanted it to be able to accommodate 2 or 3 short 4-wheel coaches, but not to be so long as to be overpowering on a very small layout such as this. The platform looked a bit bigger than I had hoped, but not too big. My original aim was for the layout to have an open countryside look to it, but I've come to the conclusion there's only so much open countryside you can fit onto a 60 centimetre board. Or maybe I'm just overthinking things. I wanted a grey gravel type finish to the platform surface such as might be found on the Colonel Stevens light railways. A mixture of fine light grey ballast and fine dark cinders was glued to the surface, but the colour looked too dark, so a lighter version was applied on top. This also did not look right, so the whole surface was lightly dry brushed with yet another lighter colour, and to my satisfaction now looked much more like the effect I was after. The fencing is some old ratio GWR fencing which was painted cream, weathered and glued into the pre-drilled holes on the platform. Continuing with the open countryside theme, I felt a small waiting shelter would be ideal and would not look too large on a small micro layout. As luck would have it, I had already built one from a Pico kit for my garage layout, so I thought I would borrow it for this layout. The building contains a single battery-powered LED which is controlled from a switch hidden underneath the roof, which means the shelter cannot be fixed down. The now hidden plastic squares under the shelter serve not only to locate it in its correct position, but also to restrict its movement when the layout is being moved. Pico streamline buffers have been treated to a couple of coats of sleeper grime, rusted slightly, and the lamps painted red. They have been cut short to give me as much siding space as possible, and have then been glued to the track. The coal stays, I think, are from an old ratio kit. I used half of the kit on my garage layout and found this half in my spares box. This is yet another nod to the original floating shelf challenge, which was to reuse as many items as possible. A small loading platform was made out of yet more old spare pieces of previously used kits and attached to the rear of the platform. Anyway, I think that's all for now, so thanks for watching and see you next time.